What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Memorial. Unbelievable week last week, right? A bunch of guys tied at 10 under par. None of them win the golf tournament. Sam Burns steals it. Burnsy getting his third victory of the year. Fun stuff all around. Let's focus on this week a little bit. And as of right now, I've got a tournament preview out that I recorded earlier last week, a couple of days ago at the Win. And then also Andy has his course preview out on RickRunGood.com right now. So that's a really good starting point. But let's break this down for all your fantasy purposes. And we'll start with the golf course, Muirfield Village. And this is my website. Everything you see on this video will be from my website, RickRunGood.com. Giant golf database for all your fantasy and betting needs. You should subscribe to it. Okay, Muirfield Village. We've got a lot of great data on this because it is a golf course that we've used regularly on the PGA Tour. It's a Jack Nicklaus design. This is his crown jewel, right? This is he's got what, 425 designed golf courses. This is his one. This is it right here. And in true Jack Nicklaus fashion, it tends to reward the left to right shot. It's not impossible to win or play well in the other way, but that's kind of his tendency, his lean. And then, as Andy pointed out, better than I could have described, this golf course gets harder, and a lot of Jack Nicklaus golf courses get harder the closer you get to the hole. There are generally some generous landing areas off the tee, and then the second shot will be demanding, around the green even more demanding, and then putting, they've gone through some recontouring of the greens lately. They are not super difficult, but there's undulation out there, a little bit easier to read. But like, once you get to the green, I think it gets a little bit easier, but that second shot's going to be very difficult. Around the green is going to be very difficult. If you miss the fairway, there are wide greens, but if you miss, wide fairways, but if you miss the fairway, you're going to get that 4-inch thick, Kentucky rye / fescue. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to compete out of the rough. So you're going to want to find guys who are hopefully long and straight off the tee. We'll talk about those guys in just 1 second. This is the model that I run for every golf course on the PGA Tour, and I compare a dozen years worth of data. If I have a dozen years worth, I don't always do. This course I do, where you look at the stats that are most correlated to success. And the one that stands out here is around the green play. As I mentioned, these are very, very penal, short game areas. They're very, very hard to get up and down. You are at the mercy of kind of whatever lie you are going to get. It's very, very tricky. And the highest correlated stat was strokes gained around the green to success. There are only 3 other courses on the PGA Tour schedule in which strokes gained around the green was more correlated with success. So we'll keep that in mind as we continue to go through this. And they did renovations after 2020, so we've played 1 year with the new renovations. I covered this a little bit on the tournament preview that was released on Sunday. If you want to go back and check that out, it's been lengthened a little bit. They can tip it out at like 7,500 yards. The par 5, I think it's 13. Don't quote me on that. That got the vast majority of the extra yardage. And then basically every single green has either been replaced, redone, or recontoured, which I think is kind of noteworthy. So we're getting more and more data as this will be the second year that we are on it after that redesign. Okay, I think that's basically it. We'll talk mostly, we'll continue to talk about the course, but let's go look at the cheat sheet here. 5 golfers over $10,000. Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, Collin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele. They are all well-deserving of this. Let's talk about Jon Rahm. So makes the cut at the PGA Championship, finishes 48th, wins in Mexico. Those were his last 2 starts. What everyone will remember is that this was the event that Jon Rahm was forced to withdraw on Saturday night after having a 6-shot lead last year. That opens the door for Patrick Cantlay and Collin Morikawa to eventually go to a playoff, which was won by Patrick Cantlay. Everyone remembers that. what I don't think a lot of people remember was he was looking to defend. He won this in 2020 and last year was looking to defend. So if you actually go through and look at the strokes gain metrics, which I'm not sure, it kind of depends on where you look for the strokes gain metrics here for Jon Rahm, because sometimes the PGA Tour, the way that they deal with data, if a guy WDs, sometimes they just act like he never played and they've removed the data altogether. Well, I have the round by round data. Jon Rahm in 3 rounds last year actually gained 21 strokes to the field. 21. That was 4 more strokes than the year that he won in 2020. In 2020, he played 4 rounds, gained 17 on the field, and won. He had 21 strokes gained through 3 rounds last year before the WD. So you're talking about 38 strokes gained over the course of his last 7 rounds at Muirfield Village. That is jarring. It is absolutely jarring. So you wonder, you can play the narrative around, the Rahm revenge, all that fun stuff, but this is really what I care about. Look at how many strokes he is gaining off the tee. 7.3 at the PGA Championship, 5.5 in Mexico. He has not lost strokes off the tee since the 2019 Tour Championship. Not a typo. 2019 Tour Championship is last time he's lost strokes off the tee. That is because he is long. It is because he is accurate. It is because that is exactly what you need around Memorial. Do I worry about this? A little bit, yes. So in 3 of his last 5, he has lost strokes on approach. In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of his last 11, he has lost strokes around the green. That does worry me. I'm not going to lie, because if you go back and look, so let's look at last year before the Memorial. His around the green play was slightly better than average. And then what we saw kind of before his win in 2020, again, he was a great around the green player. That's the one thing he's lost in 2022. So that does worry me. Probably not enough to cross his name off, because I'm excited to get access to Jon Rahm this week. He's 11,100. I'm interested to see what his ownership is, but I do have a few worries. But we'll see later in the week, maybe when we get to the Wednesday live chat, what I end up doing with them, but you can decide for yourself what you want to end up doing with them. So Rory McIlroy is 10,900. And I think, well, I don't know how popular he's going to be. Rory could be the best option this week. So let's look at this together here. What do we know about Rory McIlroy? Well, he's absolutely dominant off the tee, right? We know that. So half the battle at Muirfield Village is already done. And he has been awesome on approach, right? He's gained 4.5 at the PGA Championship, 4.5 at the Wells Fargo, 3+ at the Masters, 2.5 at both the Players Championship and the Arnold Palmer Invitational. If you look at the power rankings, so the power rankings are simply that. Last 24 rounds of every single golfer in this field, Rory McIlroy, by a wide margin, is the best player in this field over the last 24 rounds. He's the only golfer gaining over 2 strokes per round. He's gaining 2.18. So Rory McIlroy, checking all the boxes. What I think is even more noteworthy is this: gaining a half a stroke around the green in those 24 rounds. So let's go back to Rory's golfer profile here. Let's look at his results at the Memorial, because he started off hot. He had a bunch of top 10s kind of early in his career. He had, top 10 in 2010, a 5th in 2011. He had top 15s in 14, 16, and 18. And some of his worst finishes have been recently. Well, look at what has held Rory McIlroy back. It's always been the around the green play. He has hemorrhaged strokes around the green at Muirfield Village. Well, he's kind of a lot better now. Look at what he's done here recently. He has not lost more than a stroke around the green since August of last year. And he has normally gained a ton. So if we kind of look through his season by season progression here, this is by far the best around the green season of Rory McIlroy's career. He's always been kind of a slightly positive golfer around the green. This is a year where he's gaining a half a stroke per round, the best. So I think we've got a situation where Rory's strengths are as strong as ever and his weaknesses are as strong as ever. And those weaknesses, which may have held him back previously at Muirfield Village, might be what spurs him this year. So very excited about Rory McIlroy. Patrick Cantlay is next. Patrick Cantlay's phenomenal outside of major championships. He has gained a ton of strokes here at Muirfield Village. He's won it twice in the last 3 years. You can argue he did not deserve to win it last year because Jon Rahm would have ran away with it. But with 18 holes to go, he battled it out. He beat Colin Morikawa in a playoff. Even if he was going to finish second, if Rahm stayed there, it would still have been an awesome strokes gained week. I tend to think Patrick Cantlay gets right. For whatever reason, major championships have not gone well for him. Outside of that, he's been awesome. I think he's got 7 top 10s or 7 top 15s in his last 14 starts. I mean, look at this. Yeah. I mean, he just won the Zurich Classic with Xander Schauffele a couple weeks ago. Week before that, he finished runner-up at the RBC Heritage. It's just everything but majors. Everything but majors. So I'm not particularly worried about Cantlay. Morikawa and Xander. Xander, to me, checks off a lot of boxes to be like the safest guy here. He's got 3 straight top 15 finishes. He's playing well enough. Morikawa, I think you have to decide if you are going to be early on or late on. So he hasn't been great, but he's going back to a place he's had a ton of success at. And I will say this, Morikawa, I talked about this on the Sunday show. If you care about tiny little sample sizes and putting them onto narratives, Morikawa was the biggest gainer from putting at Muirfield Village pre-renovation to post-renovation. Now, there's only 4 rounds post, but he's like the biggest gainer. So maybe the recontouring, maybe that's better for him. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. That's probably the answer, but I'm just throwing that out there because the putter right now is the big concern. You know, he's lost multiple strokes with the putter in 5 of his last 6. And it's really what's held him back because he's hitting the ball beautifully on approach. His around the green game's been generally fine. Off the tee, good enough. So it's a matter of whether you think he is going to putt well. I tend to say I'd rather be early on Colin Morikawa than late, right? That's kind of the thought process. And he's had similar runs like this before in his career, right? I mean, I had that stat from, I think it was a couple months ago, where like if you're just blindly betting Colin Morikawa every single week, you've made a ton of money in his career because he's going to have these stretches where he doesn't play particularly well and the number starts to slip a little bit. And then all of a sudden he putts to a +1 and wins. Like that's completely in the range of outcomes. So maybe the option for Morikawa this week is just bet him outright and not have to worry about it in fantasy. We'll see as the ownership and stuff comes out later in the week. The $9,000 range, as with most weeks, is probably where all the money is won. There's some red flags with a lot of these guys here. Victor Hovland, unfortunately, around the green, we know that is not one of his strengths. And statistically, Muirfield Village is one of the more difficult around the green courses. That's true. He's got 2 finishes in the 40s. It begs to consider that, hey, maybe it's not a great setup for him. Cam Smith, believe it or not, as good as Cam Smith has been, here are his results around Muirfield Village. So he's missed the cut in 4 of 6. He's finished T65 and T68 in the other 2 years. He's lost on the putting surface in 5 straight. He's lost around the green in 4 of 6. He's just losing big time. This is a probably, this might be the worst spot for him on, like historically the worst spot for him on the schedule. Let's see. 16 rounds minus 1.6. Yeah. Of any place that he's played at least 7 rounds, this is the worst results for Cam Smith. So that is statistically true. You kind of have to decide whether you think that's noise or he's a better golfer now or whatever you want to decide. But that would be a little bit of a concern for me. Zalatoris, not really a concern there. Missing the cut after a playoff, no problem there. Hideki Matsuyama just continues to pop up like however you really want to do this, right? I mean, Hideki's having an unbelievable year. He's won at Memorial. He is in the midst of probably, I don't think it's probably, I think it definitely is the one of the best putting stretches of his career. So this is his season. So he's still a small negative for the season, but for the year, he's a big positive putter, right? So dating back to the Sony right here, he's gained in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 out of about 10 events, and even the ones he's lost in haven't been as big of losses as we've seen. And you combine that with the fact that he's won around Memorial and he's very kind of long and accurate enough off the tee, and then he's just one of the best second shot players. Like, I just continue to be enamored with Hideki Matsuyama. And you can lump Matt Fitzpatrick into the mix there as well. Fitzpatrick finished 3rd in 2020. He's got a bunch of top 10 finishes recently. Is he going to actually close it out and win? Question to be seen. But remember, he's a winner worldwide. Just because he hasn't won on the PGA Tour does not mean he's not a winner. He's got 7 wins worldwide. It's so hard to split hairs on this $9,000 range here. There's 7 golfers in this $9,000 range. I've got it sorted by just those guys last 24 rounds. All of them are gaining at least 0.8 of a stroke per round. It's a very impressive rate. Shane Lowry's number 1, 1.99. Cam Smith is 2 at 1.7. Fitzpatrick at 1.6. Spieth at 1.5. And then you round it out with Zalatoris at 1.3 and Hideki at 1.1. So this is a very stout group. It's probably worth noting there's only 4 of these guys that are gaining to the field in both fairways and distance. That's Shane Lowry, who's a small gainer in distance, and he gains in fairways as well. Fitzpatrick does both. Hideki does both. Hovland does both. So if you're looking to break ties, those are the total driving guys. If you worry about Spieth spraying it, if you worry about Zalatoris spraying it, these are wider fairways, but if you miss, it's going to be big trouble. That's kind of the key here. I am potentially excited, I guess, for a under-owned Shane Lowry. 23rd at the PGA Championship, which was pretty quiet. That's 4 straight top 25s. Finished 6th here last year. He leads the 9K range in strokes gained over the last 24 rounds. Positive in distance to the field. Positive in fairways to the field. What's his ownership going to be? And he's the cheapest one in this range, $9,000. So maybe I've just talked myself into Shane Lowry here in the moment. Interesting. Before we jump into the 8s, let's look at a couple of trends here. So let's go to the Holy Grail, and we'll fire this up for, I want just golfers at Muirfield Village. Let's just do that real quick. Let's just get it out of the way. Best golfers at Muirfield Village in this field dating back to 2008. No surprise, Jon Rahm is number 1. No surprise, Patrick Cantlay is number 2. Ooh, Matt Kuchar. We'll talk about him in a second. Number 3. We'll talk about Patrick Reed. He's number 5. Morikawa is 4. So the first, wow, look at this. There's a ton of $7,000 guys before we get to the first $8,000 guy. That's Max Homa. 8,700, 1.1. T37, missed cut T6. It's not super great. And he's the first $8,000 golfer. Joaquin Niemann is next. Less than a stroke per round gained. Wow. So the 8K range is kind of a dead zone for really, really good course history. The guys in the 7s are much better. Let's do this by, let's do it by strength of field, which I do love. I do just love strength of field. So let's do 600 or more. I think last year was 602. And then let's just do since, I don't know, 2019 or something like that. Just the last handful of years. I don't want to get a bunch of Jason Day and Justin Rose and all that stuff. Okay, so Jon Rahm still number 1. Zalatoris number 2. Rory, Cantlay, Xander. No real surprises here. Patrick Reed again. I'll tell you what. I've started compiling this watch list, these guys that I'm just really interested in seeing what they're going to do over the course of the next couple weeks. Patrick Reed certainly on that list. Ricky Fowler's on that list. Who else is on that list? I can't remember. I should probably write it down. I must admit, this morning I just bet Patrick Reed to win the US Open, which I don't know. We're obviously going to talk a lot about the US Open, but Brookline is just super small greens, probably very penal, rough, as you would imagine at a US Open venue. You've got a situation where I don't think they'll turn it into winged foot, where I think having a go-to shot, playing out of the fairway, he just is apparently dropped PXG and he's driving it longer again. Again, that's a different conversation to have. But Patrick Reed has my full attention here. So anyway, back to strength of field. Again, not a lot of guys in the 8K range. The best guy in the 8K range is Mito Pereira, gaining a stroke per round. He only has 12 rounds. Answers up here, a little bit better. Berger, that's probably another guy on the watch list because he's got to figure out these He's got to figure out the irons, although he was a little bit better at times last week at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Seamus Power's in here. I'll tell you what, Seamus Power would be pretty interesting. Seamus Power's $8,000. Okay, I'll keep me in mind about Seamus Power. Let's go back here. $8,000 range. Where's Seamus? Yeah, okay. So Seamus is $8,000. He gains in distance. He gains in fairways. He's got 2 top 20s, including a 9th at the PGA Championship coming into this event, which means he's got 4 top 25s. I'll give him 25th for a 27th. Top 25s in his last 6. Gains across the board in his last 48. It's not bad. It's not bad. Sungjae Im picked up right where he left off before the PGA Championship. So 15th last week. And it's actually kind of surprising that he hasn't had much success around around Muirfield Village, because he is, when he's on, a great driver of the golf ball. He's good on bent grass. Here's his numbers now. So he's gained in his last 100 rounds on bent grass. Let's see. Well, he's a little bit better than positive. He's 0.17 to the positive, but look at the spikes. That's what I like here. So plus 3.7, plus 5.5, plus 6, plus 4.4. That's kind of the spikes that I like there. Now, he's had some really bad ones as well. He had a stretch here from the PGA Championship in 2020 to basically the Masters in 2021, where he like never gained strokes on bent grass, but that's kind of behind him at the moment. Cam Young finally getting the big price increase, and it's well-deserved. Third, second, third in his last 3, including the PGA Championship. I'd be lying if I didn't say the guys that struggle around the green, Max Homa, Abraham Answer, worry me for this week. It is just such a demanding short game course or around the green course that if you're not playing from the green, if you're not hitting every single green, you're kind of in trouble. So that is a little bit worrisome to me. Let's see what else is here. I think I like the top and the bottom and the middle. I think I like Sungjae at the top. I think I like Seamus at the bottom. And I think I like Daniel Berger, or at least the opportunity to be early on Berger in the middle. He is still, I don't know if it was the back injury or just, everything combined, but like the fact that he lost, I'll just show you this real quick, because if you're watching, like, you probably care about this, right? And especially with a major championship around the corner, and one that's okay. So I'll tell you, I also bet Berger for the U.S. Open this morning, which I don't usually fire 2 clicks like that a couple weeks out, because I'll probably be able to get better numbers. But I would just saw it and said I don't want to forget about this. So okay, Berger's lost strokes on approach in 4 of his last 6, which is quite concerning considering the fact that before that, he had a stretch where he did not lose strokes from the 2022 Honda Classic to the 2021 Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I know he lost 0.18 in Phoenix. I'll give him credit for that one. But he was stout on approach every single week. And then maybe it's the back injury and everything else. I could see him getting back to normal, right? If that Charles Schwab Challenge where he gains strokes off the tee, approach, and around the green, if he finds the putt, like I'm generally okay with trying to be early on Daniel Berger. So that 8K range to me says top, bottom, middle, Im, Berger, Power. That feels right to me. The 7Ks were stacked, right? I mean, all those guys that we saw who've played well at Muirfield Village. If you look at if you want kind of, let's do just short term, I suppose. Last 24 rounds. Strokes gained total. Kuchar. Okay, Kuchar's going to be probably the most popular guy on this board, right? He's 7,800. He's got like 6 straight made cuts. He's been dominant around Muirfield Village. In the last 24, he's gaining more than anybody else in the 7K range. Let's just do the Matt Kuchar thing. So talking about slumps that he broke out of, because I'm pretty sure he was mired in a pretty big slump. Yeah, kind of. Missed 3 out of 4 cuts. And then at the Valspar, starting at the Valspar, he's made 6 straight cuts. He's got 3 top 12 finishes in there, and it could not come at a better time because look at what he's done around Muirfield Village. Winner in 2013, bunch of top 10 finishes. He's gained more strokes at this event or at this course than any other course that he's played at least 5 times, and he's played it 46 times. So that is a sustained, dating back to 2008, 46 rounds, a sustained level of success, playing well. He's going to be very, very popular, and he should be. I also like the guy right below him, Chris Kirk. Talked about this a lot on the Sunday preview, and I didn't really know how Chris Kirk was even going to finish at the Charles Schwab Challenge at the time. He finished 15th. So now he's got a 5th at the PGA Championship, a 15th at the Charles Schwab Challenge. There is a strong correlation to around the green play at Muirfield Village, and Chris Kirk in the last 24 is the second best around the green player here. Kuchar's number 1. Again, Kuchar's going to be very, very popular. Chris Kirk is number 2. So that's why this is really growing here. So we'll see what these two come in at for the week and what their ownership is going to be. But 2 guys I'm fairly excited about. Bryson is 7,800. That's almost the price he was when he won this 4 or 5 years ago. I think he was 7,700. That was kind of the first coming onto the scene, big moment for Bryson. So he was never really priced too high back then. Not really sure what to do. I'll be honest with you here, because he's been great at Muirfield Village, not just the win, but 2 other top 25s in the 3 years since. He had the procedure done, had the wrist surgery done. He's been swinging the golf club. I'll let you guys tell me. I really don't know what to do. I think he is incredibly risky. I think he has a ton of upside. Let me know. Tweet me, leave a comment what we're going to do with Bryson at $7,800. I don't think he's going to be very popular because there are those other great options in Reed and Kuchar and Kirk and all these other guys that we saw in the 7K range. I think it will keep his ownership very, very low. Maybe if you're playing 10 lineups, you put him in 1 and you're overweight to the field. Maybe that's the route to go. But my goodness, there's not a bigger question mark in the field. I want to also look at the longest guys in the 7K range who hit fairways. So Keith Mitchell is that guy, the number 1 guy. He's the longest guy in the last 24 rounds that is gaining fairways to the field. Aaron Wise is also that guy. KH Lee, believe it or not. KH Lee gaining 0.12 yards to the field on average. And that's basically it. Those are the only 3 guys in the 7K range that are gaining distance and fairways to the field. Interesting. Aaron Wise finished 10th last year. God, I'm going to lose so much on Aaron Wise. I've already lost. Okay. That's a different conversation for a different day. The other thing I wanted to look at so this range like disproportionately creates a lot of the really good jock market winners. So when you are and this is last week's Charles Schwab Challenge, this is stock market DFS. So like guys like Cam Davis and Matt Jones and Pat Perez and John Hull last week were all big time winners in the jock market. Cam Davis went for $3.50. That's a steal, right? Am I clicking on the right one? Yeah. Matt Jones went for more, $3.52. They paid out $10.50, $10 a share respectively. Last 10 cash markets, Lahiri's still number 1. Sepp Straka, Kurt Kitayama. Cam Young's gained in 80% of his markets. What an absolute freak. So good here. Kuchar is on this list. Yeah, love it. I love jock market. Sign up, use the code Rick. The data's on my website for free. There's a power hour Wednesday night. But this is the range of guys that end up being generally very, very good. All right, the dirty little 6s here. So lots of golfers in this range. We'll run a model here in a second, but what catches my attention early here? Scott Stallings, obviously playing good golf, right? 25th at the Byron Nelson. He missed the cut at the PGA. Monday of last week, he qualified for the U.S. Open, 36 holes on Monday, and then carried that into the Charles Schwab Challenge. Finished 4th. I'm like lukewarm on that. It feels a little bit like you might be chasing points. I'm not super stoked about it, but like if you're desperate, I get it. Brendan Steele has caught my attention for a couple of reasons. Before I flipped to his golfer profile, I realized that he's got 3 straight top 40s here. A 13th place finish in 2020 was his best start during that stretch. Brendan Steele, one of the founding members of Team No Putt, so he's always going to have a special place in my heart, was fairly pathetic from the Sony Open to the Honda Classic. He missed all 5 of those cuts. And it's because he lost the part that makes him team no putt. He lost the ball striking, and he has seemingly found it again. So when you look at the ball striking numbers since the Arnold Palmer Invitational, it's +7, +11, 0, a 4th place finish with Keegan that we don't have the breakdown for at the Zurich. Then he was +4, and then last time we saw him at the PGA Championship, he was +9.5. So we're back, baby. Brendan Steele is back, baby. Around the green's been much better. The putter, always horrible. Now, there is a bit of statistical analysis that could argue these greens aren't that difficult. There's a lot of undulation, but also that can be easier to read for some of the bad putters. And there's not like a clear correlation to you being a great putter and finding success at Muirfield Village. It's just not, there's no statistical evidence of that. Obviously it's not going to hurt you, but that's the point. So there might not be better spots for team no putters than here, and Steele, one of the founding members. A name we haven't talked about really at all recently is Patrick Rogers. He's $6,800. He's quite long. He will need to keep it in play. I worry about his ability to hit fairways, but if he can keep it in play in these generous landing areas, which he's done, right? 8th place finish here in 2018, 18th in 2020. He's only played it 3 times since 2018. He's got 2 top 20s, and he's got 4 straight top 35s coming in. Played well in Mexico, played well at Zurich, got into the 30s at the Charles Schwab and the Byron Nelson. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I bet you someone like him pops up in the model. Kind of with that really good skill set, playing well enough recently. Let's see what else we've got here. Now we're kind of into the range of golfers who actually over the last 48 in this range have lost strokes to the field, which starts to become a little worrisome. Maybe Kevin Streelman. Streelman's last 5 at this event have been great. 13th, 44th, 4th, 54th, 13th. He's got to play out of the fairway because he's not quite as long, but the recent form's pretty bad. So not excited about that as much. Okay, let's run a model. Custom model, RickRunGood.com. All right. We've got to figure out what our weights are going to be. Let's say last 16 rounds, and let's say we want, oh boy. Okay. Well, what do we know? Ideally you're longer off the tee, but you are going to get a little bit more in terms of generosity in these landing areas. But you got to hit fairways. So let's just say we're going to create our own weighted strokes gained off the tee. And we are going to say 10 in distance, 15 in accuracy. Pretty interesting. Then we are going to say, so if we're going with the theory that this is harder, more difficult, the closer you get to the hole. So if I put 25 weights on driving, I think I need to put 30 on approach, strokes gained approach. And then I kind of need to, if I'm continuing to buy this, right, I need to say 35 around the green, because I need to say that's more important. And we also know that it is more correlated to success than a lot of other things. Then I only have 10 left. Now, what I suppose I could do here, if I was feeling super frisky, and let's just do it. We can rerun these on Wednesday as well. I'll just put the last 10 on putting. So what I've got now is I've created my own strokes gained total, which I kind of like, for this course by using the model and also using what we think about what Jack has done. 25 in off the tee, split 15 on accuracy, 10 on distance, 30 on approach, 35 around the green, and then we think that putting probably not as critical this week. So we put 10 on that, and we've got 100 weights. I love this. How have I never done this before? Okay. That means our number 1 golfer is, oh boy, Rory McIlroy. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Obviously, Sungjae's number 2. How about that? Love it. Spieth 3. Love it. Riley 4. Love it. Aaron Wise 5. Oh God. Kuchar 6. Wow. Hideki, Cam Young, Chris Kirk, Keegan Bradley. This is my favorite top 10 I've ever had. It's my favorite. It's everyone I love and everyone I lose money on. This is it right here. This is amazing. What a great top 10. Ricky's 11. Wow. What I noticed is John Rahm was quite far down the list. He was 58 in terms of score, I think. Did I miss him? Yeah, he's 38th in my rankings, 59.65. Why is that? Hasn't been great on approach, which is 30% of the weights. Hasn't been great around the green, which is another huge chunk of it. So that's kind of the issue there that Rahm's going to run into. But wow, look at this top 10. It's also like team no putters. So it's like, of course. Wow. I love it. I feel like I've been gifted like just the best gift ever on Christmas Day. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, there we go. I think we'll just end there. Things can't get any better. We'll just end there. More great content coming later in the week. Tweet me at RickRunGood. Leave a comment below. I said that weird. RickRunGood. RickRunGood. Leave a comment below. Best of luck. I'll talk to you guys soon.